Welcome to the Behind Beliefs and Behaviors podcast, where we take you on a journey of what is behind the specific beliefs and behaviors that impact individuals and organizations. With our guests, we get to the root cause of what stands in the way of everything from health, wealth, and relationships to leadership, community transformation, and societal progress. From topics on leadership, psychological safety, corporate culture and communication, to parenting, trauma, relationships, personal health, and intimacy, this podcast is sure to get you to the source and provide you practical tips to transform your life one root cause at a time. I am your host, Dr. Maisha Claiborne. I'm a physician, a coach, a consultant, and an expert in trauma-informed communication. The founder of the Mind Remapping Company, I help individuals and organizations better understand the brain, behavior, and the root of false beliefs so that you can more effectively listen, communicate, connect, and create fulfilling relationships and results in your personal and professional life. Join us every Monday morning at 8 a.m. and let's get to the root cause and discover what's behind your beliefs and behaviors. Welcome to our podcast today. I am so excited. I'm so excited because, first of all, we've been talking about this episode for a little minute now. We finally got this lovely doctor, sister doctor of mine, on here. And also, I love the topic that we're about to talk about. First, let me share with you who is my guest today. This is Dr. Funke Brown, and she is the owner of the Restful Sleep Place. And we're here to talk a little bit today about the root of sleep resistance. And you may be wondering what that is. You're about to find out. So I want to welcome to the show, Dr. Brown. Thank you for being with me. How are you today?
I'm fabulous now that I'm here. Thank you so much for having me, Dr.
Oh,
Maish. I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much for what you do and just for having me come over.
thank you. I'm just looking forward to this conversation. But, I like my listeners to get to know my guests. And so, I would love for you to share a little bit about you, a little bit about, what you do, and then how you have come to do what you do now.
So I am, first of all, a child of God. I am a mom, a wife. I am a sleep medicine physician, and I am the founder of two companies now, the Restful Sleep Place and Restful Sleep MD. There's something about restful sleep and the work I do. And really, my mission is to help high achieving professionals and children optimize their sleep so
Mhm.
that they can thrive and really live the lives they were called to live.
I love that. I love that because I think that rest, it's undervalued.
Mm,
And especially in us high performing individuals,
mm.
you know, it's like there are these slogans that are just problematic. Like, and the one I'm probably about to say, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. No,
Yeah.
no. And so I just think it's extremely important to understand the importance of sleep, of rest in general, but then particularly the role that sleep plays into it.
hmm Absolutely. Absolutely. There's really, and thankfully, I think that narrative is slowly starting to shift because people are understanding the role of sleep deprivation in their burnout journey, in the mood and mental health crisis. And so folks are starting to pay attention, but we still have a lot of ways to go.
Yes. Well, I want to talk a little bit about just sleep in general, because I think that when people think about sleep and rest, they don't think about how critical it is to recovery, to, like development and to things of that nature. So I'd love to just, go a little clinical for a moment before we come back to the mindset behind the resistance and the societal conversations. I would love for you to talk a little bit about the benefits of sleep and what happens when we don't get it.
So sleep is healing and sleep is helpful for restoration. And really, if you think about it, there's really no organ system in your body that does not benefit from sleep in one way, shape, or form. Right from the top, if you think about our brain health and brain recovery and the cleansing role of sleep, even from that moment. And so when we see people who, or even us, right, you may feel exhausted, you may feel foggy, you may feel memory lapses, and all those things are usually related to poor sleep. And now we know about the role of that, we call it the glymphatic system that sort of cleanses our brains over the course of the night to remove waste products, some of which they call beta amyloid, which can contribute to Alzheimer's. And so when we think about the role it has on just that function alone, I think it's something we want to step back and say, I want a part of, I want a good stuff, right? And then even in terms of our executive function. And I'm highlighting that again because you talked about the fact that, a lot of high achievers are putting sleep on the side. But if you're thinking you want to set those goals, you want to achieve those goals, you want to make the right decisions, we make thousands, tens of thousands of decisions daily, and you want to make very high quality decisions. It's really related to that process of sleep. You want to make sure that you are learning those skills and able to consolidate your memory and also able to sort of utilize the skills you're learning. That's all related to sleep. And then our mental health is also tightly related. I mean, this is more of a bi-directional relationship. So if you're not getting enough sleep, you're more likely to be moody. You're more likely to have an exacerbation of your anxiety or your depression. And when you have those things, of course, they can impact your sleep quality as well. So it's both ways. And then, when we also think of our physical health, just the healing nature of sleep, hormones are regulated during sleep, our heart health. And so we know that there's an increased risk of, heart attacks, an increased risk of hypertension, things, or strokes as well related to poor sleep. And then our immune system also gets recovered and rejuvenated during sleep. So that's something that's so important. Even with women and men, everybody, metabolism is a big one. So, that extra weight you've been trying to shed, it
I was
might
just
just
gonna say
be,
about that.
it might just be, sleep might be the plug, right? Such that you optimizing your diet. And we hear a lot about a healthy diet. Hear a lot about intermittent fasting or keto or gluten-free, whatever that is. If you pair that with good sleep, you metabolize better. And they've done so many studies to see this, and it's pretty incredible. And also, even exercise, right? Exercise is a very critical pillar of health. But for you to really get the benefits, the full benefits of exercise, you need for you to make sure you're not getting injuries, that your muscles are recovering nicely, that, all those things, growth hormone production, everything else that's key to your physical activity is also connected to sleep. So again, it's like all the way from the top to the bottom in terms of how important sleep is.
It's so interesting because when I talk a lot about emotional regulation
Mm,
and and activation and trauma,
mm,
one of the things that I often talk about is the HALT acronym, like, and I add an S
mm,
to the end. And,
mm,
it's not an accident that
mm,
one of the letters is tired, like represents tired,
mm,
hungry, angry, lonely, tired. And then I add the S for stressed,
mm,
so halts. And
mm,
so, yeah, tired. And so we don't always recognize that even sometimes like the moods and when we're activated and when we're unable to regulate ourselves emotionally, if
yeah.
one of those things is in play, one being we're not resting, we're not
Mm,
we're not sleeping well enough, then it will prevent us from being able to be our best selves. And then the other thing that you said that really stuck out, because I was thinking about it, was that it helps our metabolism. And when
mm,
I was on my weight loss journey, which thankfully I have achieved my desired
mm.
weight. I'm not going to say ideal because I think that's a whole nother conversation. Plays to the societal norms.
Mm,
My
mm,
my preferred, my desired, I was doing some research, and one of the things that was happening is I wasn't getting enough sleep.
mm,
And so personally, I need, about 7 hours. And what's interesting is it has decreased over time. Like I used to need a full 8, then seven,
mm,
7.5. And now, as long as I'm between 6.5 and 7.5, I'm good. But I was getting that 6 and less for a little while just because of the way business was going, and I was staying up a little later than I should, and I was not
Mm,
abiding by my sleep routine, my wind down routine. And I noticed that there was that stickiness. And so I was
mm,
reading about how that sleep deprivation can prevent weight loss. And so I didn't
mm,
know that. That was something I recently learned in the last like year or two.
mm,
So yeah,
mm,
I just wanted to underline that because I think everything that you said,
mm.
obviously. And, I personally experienced a few of those things.
Yeah. No, that is so true. And now they are like they've looked at studies where they sort of have two different groups: weight loss, routine weight loss strategies, and sleep, health, hygiene and things, and then just routine weight loss strategies. And they could see, I mean, the same caloric intake, the same stress exercise regimen, the same stress management strategies. The only difference was one group had more sleep than the other, and those that had more sleep tend to shed more. They lost more weight than those that didn't.
What is this about our resistance to rest and sleep? What is this? What do you think? What have you seen?
Multiple reasons. And and that has also evolved just with me working with moms, with professionals. In terms of one, there sometimes is a lack of understanding of what sleep really does.
Yeah.
And so really delving into, wait, the way you are, the way you're interpreting situations that you're faced with, the way you're interpreting adversity is actually connected to your sleep. Many people don't necessarily realize how tightly connected it is. So I think it starts from there. And then there's also that lack of boundary setting. Sometimes I say it's not even a sleep issue, it's a boundary setting issue where we're overworked, we're overstressed, we're overstretched. We've said so many yeses, and I see this especially with women. And so there's really no time. We've not made any time for ourselves, our own health. And so the same way we've kind of defaulted on going to the gym and, moved on from trying to really follow through with whatever we committed to when it comes to our nutrition and our bodies. The same way, all of a sudden, the sleep does not become a priority. And then another thing that I've seen is that we sort of try to compensate with other aspects of our lives. So, at least I'm getting this right, right? At
Mhm.
least I'm doing this or I'm achieving this, right? And sometimes what we see is that sometimes one of those things that we are sort of substituting, they're tangible, right? You got a big bonus at work because you were there, hustling, grinding, and pushing yourself to the limit.
Right,
Nobody necessarily sees the full benefit of sleep, right? It's almost invisible.
right.
So that's one thing. So sometimes we're compensating, or you're waking up early because now you've committed to this gym membership and you got to get there by 6 a.m. And so
Yeah,
now you've worked till midnight and then you got to get up early. And so we're compensating, we're sort of replacing sleep with other things that seem to be more important in our lives.
yeah.
And then, I think then there's also the mindset of, well, you know what? I'll catch up on sleep,
Oof.
you know. Let me just finish this. And one of the things I say is that sleep is not something we earn. You don't earn your rest. You don't earn it. You just stop. And since the world was made, we've always spent a third of our lives sleeping. And these are recommendations. This is generally what our sleep needs are, especially as adults. And if you'll notice, we've advanced in everything else, but that sleep need has not changed.
Mhm.
And so, us not being able to put that priority in the right place is just something that also impacts our sleep and contributes to that sleep resistance.
Mhm.
And then I would even say also is sometimes it may not even necessarily be a resistance. It may be that, okay, now I've set that intention to prioritize my sleep because I understand how much it plays a role and I'm tired of being tired.
Yeah,
But it becomes a sleep ability issue where
please.
now you're in bed, you finally fixed your kids' sleep, so you can't blame them because that's also a reason. Sleep.
Right.
Now we can't even blame the kids anymore. And so we are either buff tampering with activities at bedtime because we're trying to quiet our minds.
That's
We're
right.
trying to run away from those thoughts. And so we're on the social media, we're on screens, we're on just really trying to replace whatever discomfort we might experience at the end of the day
Yeah.
with something else. And so that also makes it hard for us to actually shut down and sleep.
Mm. You said so many things. I'm over here taking notes, taking notes. So the first thing you said, and I think this one is huge, is boundaries.
Hmm.
And as you pointed out, we don't we take on a lot of things, we say yes to so many things, and then we
Hmm.
end up, like compromising our sleep in that
Hmm.
way.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'd love to like sort of add to that is sometimes we set boundaries for ourselves and we railroad our own
Hmm.
boundaries. And I know for
Hmm.
myself, that was like a huge shift for me
Hmm.
because as an entrepreneur, and especially for the entrepreneurs out there,
Hmm.
we don't clock out. We don't
Yeah.
clock out unless we intentionally clock out.
Hmm.
I've had to set alarms,
Hmm.
what I call my stop working alarm, and
Hmm.
what I call my shut it down alarm, which means turn off the television, get up, go start your wind down routine.
Hmm.
Right? And
Hmm.
for a long time, I would ignore those alarms. So, like,
Hmm.
I would set the boundary and then I would
Yeah.
ignore the boundary, right? No
Yeah.
integrity,
Hmm.
no integrity. And
Hmm.
so I just wanted to like underline that. I think it is so on point. So it's sometimes it's boundaries with others, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's boundaries that we railroad our own boundaries and we
Hmm.
sabotage our own well-being.
Yeah. Oh.
Yes. And then so that what X speaks to the next thing that really stood out was like prioritization.
Hmm.
I think maybe we don't prioritize our sleep because we're not used to prioritizing ourselves.
Hmm.
We're not
Hmm.
used to prioritizing ourselves. And then what that leads to over time is that decreased ability. And I think part of that is when you don't sleep for so long, you recondition your body not to sleep.
Hmm.
You have to recondition it to sleep again. Yeah.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
the last thing I'll say is I think that in addition to that, we don't listen to our bodies. So sometimes we
Yeah.
can't even recognize that we're tired. And I
Hmm.
remember there was a time when I would have these very full days, and I still do, but I would get tired right around 3 o'clock.
Hmm.
And I would just push through it, right? And then I would just be
Hmm.
so cranky for the rest of the day. And then I was listening to something, this is before the nap ministries came about. I was listening
Hmm.
to some author and he was talking about naps. What's the optimal time for nap? And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start taking naps. And
Hmm.
so I would feel this feeling in my body that I knew was that it was
Hmm.
just I need to lay down. And I would just go over to my couch, which I have in my office. I
Hmm.
intentionally put a couch in my office for this reason,
Hmm.
and just set my alarm for 15, 20, 25 minutes, depending on how much I had, and take that nap and feel so revived. So I
Hmm.
like everything that you said was just so on point. And that prioritization, that holding our boundaries and that listening to our body and reconditioning ourselves, I think that can play into us, moving back into a healthier, I guess, sleep sphere.
Hmm.
Sleep sphere.
Hmm. So no, no, so powerful. That piece on listening to our bodies, it is so salient, right? Because when you feel tired, it's a symptom of something. It may be, insufficient sleep
Yeah.
because you're sleep deprived. It may be a chronic illness. It may be mind matters, whatever it is. And I think that's where even part of my what I teach in my program is around, again, having moments during your wind down routine
Yeah.
where you can just be present with yourself,
Mm.
like what is going on. And it's a practice because if you've never listened, you don't know what the voice of your body sounds like.
Right.
You have no clue. So when you become in tune, whether that is through, you know, breathing, whether that is through meditation or prayer or journaling, like you are actually paying attention. And when you become so in tune, exactly like you said, you will know like, okay, there's something off right now. I'm reading the same lines over and over again. I'm not my productivity is gone down right now. Where do I need to shift? My butt hurts because I've been sitting at the same chair for hours and hours, right? Like, where do I need to shift instead of just going, going, going? I think that is so critical. And yes, absolutely, it plays into that sphere of that conditioned response that we get, which then makes it almost hard for us to fall asleep when it's time to do that.
I wonder, and I'd love to hear your view about this. Is there a role for rest without sleep? Like not having no sleep, but like resting our minds
Mm.
in as we like, move into that sphere of cultivating a healthier sleep life.
Oh, that is so good. That's one of my favorite things to talk about
Mm.
because sometimes it sounds like when we say rest, we're talking about sleep. Sometimes it sounds like, okay, when we're saying rest, we're talking about another type of rest. So there's this book I really love. It's Sacred Rest by Sandra Dalton Smith. She's incredible. She's also a physician who really does work with women and things. And she talks about the 7 types of rest.
Yes.
So there's the physical rest, there's the sensory rest, there's the creative rest, there's the emotional rest,
Mhm.
there is the spiritual rest,
Mhm.
there is the mental rest, and there's one more that I'm blanking out on. But when we talk about rest, sleep is a type. So sleep, physical activity, nourishing your body, they're types of physical rest. So sleep is just one type. And this right here is a big deal because this is why you might wake up even after getting your 8 hours of sleep and you're still tired because you needed a different type of rest. That doesn't mean you don't need sleep. You still need sleep.
Yeah.
But it was that you maybe needed sleep. And so where are you in terms of just the mental clutter?
Yeah.
Where are you in terms of, creativity and getting out and exploring nature? Where
Mm.
are you in terms of your spirituality and grounding yourself and really being in tune? Where are you in terms of those emotional boundaries? Maybe somebody is depriving you of, or hurting you in a way that maybe they don't know, but you need to cut off some ties.
Yeah.
And also social rest, right? Where are you in terms of who's in your circle, who's speaking into your life, who are you hanging out with? So all those facets play a role. And this is not to overwhelm you to say, oh my goodness, now I have a checklist of what type of rest I need to get. No, it's really just being quiet and saying, where am I feeling a tug? Where am I feeling deficit right now?
Yeah.
And just go there with curiosity to say, what do I need to feel well? What do I need to feel well rested? And so very essential to really think of rest in those multiple dimensions.
Yes, I love that. And it's interesting because I read that article, the seven
Mm,
types of rest, and I'm actually gonna go back and read the book because I actually haven't read the book. And I
mm,
think that would be just, I think for me, I think one of them, and you may have said this one, intellectual rest
yeah.
is another
Mm-hmm.
one that I
Mm-hmm.
think for me is very salient because I have sometimes a difficult time turning my mind
Mm,
off. I'm always getting
mm,
ideas. I'm always brainstorming. I'm in the
yeah.
car, like,
Yeah.
and then I know, and then I'm like tired. I'm like, sometimes
Yeah.
I need to, and this, may sound how it sounds to some people, but sometimes I need to watch TV to
Mm-hmm.
actually intellectually rest. So like I turn on like a comedy. So like
Mm-hmm.
it just like pattern
Yeah.
interrupt the thinking
Yeah. Yeah.
and laugh.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so yeah, so it's just I love that you brought the sacred
Mm,
rest in. That's
mm,
so so great. And one thing that
mm,
I heard you say earlier that I love that you do is you talked about winding down and then you ask your clients like what is it that you do to wind down? Because oftentimes I've heard that this is what you need to do to wind down. This is
mm,
this is exactly what you need to do for your sleep hygiene. But I think it's useful to customize that and to have
mm.
person discover? I mean, of course, there are some things that are, evidence-based around sleep hygiene.
Mm,
Then there is what works for each individual around
mm,
what helps them to wind down. Like some people it's reading
mm,
before they go to bed, some people it's prayer, some people
mhm.
it's writing in the journal. Some people it's
Yeah.
just getting up and doing all the things. Like for me, I get up and I, brush my teeth and I walk and I kiss my son goodnight a couple of times. I like walk into his room like maybe 5 times, between the times that I miss. Get my little,
Oh,
you know.
oh.
And then, I
Mm,
look at my goals and then I visualize and I do all
mm,
these various things. And then,
mm,
and sometimes I need to brain dump. Sometimes I need to like
mm,
break things down to get them out of my head if
mhm,
they're stuck. But then I can like, listen. And for
mm.
each person, it's different. And I love that you honor
Mm. That is so good. I think that is so important because if you are trying to follow somebody else's routine, you just find out you're not really connecting with yourself as you should. So I think it's really trying out what works for you. Usually I categorize them. So do something for your body. So that's kind of like your physical part of your routine. Like you said, it's either taking a bath or a shower, brushing your teeth, some hygiene in there, right? It could be, doing some stretches and things like that. Then you want to do something for your mind, right? So what does that look like? Maybe reading a book. And yes, to the point that you said, you probably don't want get a self-help especially if you're like either an entrepreneur or some high achiever, because then you're now motivated to take on
right.
the world at 9:30 p.m. Like, no, we don't need that. So really something to help you unwind, like don't be down a little, right? I think that is so important. Or maybe listening to a relaxing podcast or some music, just something to just help your mind. And then usually I will say, do something to help your spirit. So is that meditation? Is that some prayer? Is that visualization, right? Envisioning that preferred future for yourself? Is it going through some affirmations? Something that really speaks to your inner core. And so now you could see that with each category, I've mentioned so many things. So
Yeah.
if you're not a yoga type of person, don't. You know what I mean? Like, don't. It's okay, right? Or, now you're uncomfortable because you're screwing it up and now you're stressed out and you're not going to sleep. So find what really connects with you, make it work. The goal is to calm you down, calm your body, your mind, and spirit ready so that you could go to sleep.
I love that. And actually, it's like, oh, yay, I'm doing it in other categories. I kind of like, I feel like, oh, yay, I'm on the right track.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes.
Well, I want to just ask you as we, start to wind it down, how you specifically work with your clients. What are the things that you do specifically to help your clients? Now, how can people work with you? I know that you also speak, so I want to lift that up as well. Talk to us about your work and then we're, like how we can reach out to you.
Yeah, yeah. So different ways. I would say with my coaching, it's really with high achieving women who are just tired and they want their energy back.
Yeah.
And so we walk through my one-on-one coaching program with that, really getting to first helping them figure out what the root cause of things are. We
Mhm.
talked about a lot of things. Sometimes it's the resistance, sometimes it's boundary setting, sometimes it's what they're putting in their body or decisions they're making that gets in their way of getting good sleep. And so we use sleep as a tool to restore their energy. Then also with my speaking, really it's around speaking to organizations in terms of optimizing sleep for either their employees or their executives. And so we do workshops, I speak at conferences and things like that. And then more recently, I launched my clinical practice because what was happening, especially around my coaching, I think that's one of the perks of being a coach who's also a sleep physician is there were the clinical pieces that people were getting stuck, right? Like, okay, I've worked on the mindset, I've done everything. Now I'm having a sleep ability issue. It's no more a sleep opportunity issue. And so delving into what are the medical things that are going on that's impacting your ability to sleep. So my practice, the Restful Sleep Place, is really focused on that. So if you need a sleep study, if you need blood work for nutrition labs that are, to really figure out why your sleep is out of whack, then we could sort of close that loop through my clinical practice. And all this is detailed on my website. That is the Restful Sleep, it's restfulsleepmd.com. So it's www.restfulsleepmd.com. When you go there, it also takes you to the Restful Sleep Place. So they're connected. But head on there. I have a blog. So I talk a lot around many things we've talked about today. And then I'm also on social media at Restful Sleep MD. So that's somewhere else you could connect with me.
I love that. I love that. And for those who may want to come see you at your practice, where are you located in the city, in the world? in
Yeah,
the
great.
state?
Great question. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. So I'm licensed in California, in New Jersey, as well as Pennsylvania. So if you're in any of those three states, we could definitely connect in terms of my clinical practice. But if you need, coaching, or you're just feeling stuck where it comes to sleep and you've just really not been able to get the answer after doing all the sleep hygiene things and everything else to fix it, then we could talk and I could tell you more about my coaching program.
Awesome. Very, very, very good. Well, this has been amazing conversation. Amazing conversation. I love talking about sleep. It's become one of my favorite things to do.
Oh, nice. I love
Yes.
it.
Mama's got to have her rest and her sleep too.
Yeah, yes,
Well,
absolutely.
I just appreciate you. Thank you for coming in and educating us and dialoguing with me. And, I definitely look forward to continuing our conversations because I think that there's probably more for us to talk about around
Mm,
rest and around sleep, more of us to dig in. I think we probably could have had this conversation for an hour. And
mm.
so, yeah, I just look forward to, keeping in touch and then also lifting you up and supporting you in your sleep practice.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks. I've enjoyed this conversation as well. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So you all heard it. Go visit Dr. Brown, restfulsleepmd.com and follow her on social media /restfulsleepmd. And share this episode. I always ask for the audience to share because this is very important information. And share this with a friend, a colleague, a family member, or even someone you just met who may have shared with you they're having rest or sleep challenges or resistance. Because restful sleep is just such important to our ongoing well-being and continued development. And finally, leave a review for this podcast. And especially if you're listening to this episode and this is your favorite episode, make sure to mention Dr. Brown in your review so that people know, hey, I need to listen to this episode and I need to go check out Dr. Brown and Restful Sleep MD. So with that, I thank our listeners because guess what? Without the listener, there is no podcast. And until our next episode, you all stay in health.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. We know that without the listeners, there is no podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to subscribe so you do not miss when we drop our next episode. And share this podcast with a friend, a family member, and a colleague, at least one person in your life today. This episode was brought to you by the Mind Remapping Company, helping organizations create psychologically and emotionally safe cultures that make their employees and leaders feel seen, heard, respected, welcome, and valued, all while fostering a thriving, engaged, and healthy workforce for the organization. Is your organization in need of a speaker? I speak about topics like psychological and emotional safety, trauma-informed communication, and employee well-being. If this is aligned with your organizational inclusion, belonging, or leadership goals, contact me, Dr. Maisha, by going to www.mindremappingacademy.com. That's mindremappingacademy.com. Finally, we train leaders, but we also train coaches. If you're interested in becoming a trauma-informed coach. Visit our website as well and check out our NLP coach trainings and certifications. We'll see you on the next episode. Until then, stay empowered.